is not a scene from a science fiction film about disasters that humanity must face. It was the horrific scene of a South Korean subway station. The sea of fire that claimed the lives of 150 people occurred in February 2003. What is even more frightening is that this disaster came without any warning. Simply on an ordinary day. The tragedy began with the appearance of a person who seemed perfectly ordinary, and the immense loss stemming from cowardice and cruelty. But before getting into the main content, I hope everyone will support to like and follow the channel so more people can know about it. Now, let's find out what happened at the Daegu subway station in Korea. That day, like many others, a group of university students and employees of the Daegu department store were on their way to school and work. Everyone is engrossed in their own affairs. Some are reading books, some are scrolling through their phones, and others are seizing the moment to take a nap. Suddenly, when the train stopped at the main station, everyone was startled by a man who appeared with a strange demeanor, blocking the exit door. In his hand was a can of gasoline and a lighter. The fear-like guests noticed something amiss and hurriedly tried to stop his frightening passenger. It was 9:53 in the morning. A brawl has occurred. Gasoline spilled onto the floor, and a heavy smell of fuel filled the ship's cabin, pushing everyone, and then a sharp, piercing crack rang out. He lit the fire. The flames erupted violently. His body caught fire and he dashed out of the train car. The fire spread like lightning. The seats, the big straps, even the walls were now catching fire and burning. The controller named Chuan hurriedly rushed out to grab a fire extinguisher from the station. He tried to extinguish the fire but was helpless against the fierce flames. The big smoke was blinding. He gave up and shouted for the other passengers to run up the stairs to escape. Most people in the train car were fortunate to escape, but this was only the beginning of a series of horrific disasters. In just 2 minutes, all 6 carriages of train 1079 were engulfed in a sea of fire. The speed at which the flames spread is truly terrifying. Inside the ships, fire is consuming flammable materials and toxic smoke is billowing densely, making the air suffocating. Lucky escaped from the 1079 train safely, but Chuan forgot an extremely important thing: to call and report to the control center. At this moment, on the surveillance screen, the control center only saw smoke billowing from the ships and had no idea that the fire was caused by that strange man. They tried to contact Chuan to grasp the situation but were unsuccessful. The center decided to send an employee directly to the site to check what was happening with ship 1079. At the same time, they also contacted train 1080, the next train about to enter the station. Required the train operator to drive the train cautiously. However, being informed but not knowing what is happening. The train operator of train 1080 still brought the train into the station as normal and stopped at 9:05:06. And as the ship's door opened, black smoke billowed out densely. In a flash, Yo, the controller of ship 1080, slammed the door shut to protect the passengers from the suffocating smoke. But no one knew that it was a fatal mistake, because only a few short minutes later, the most terrifying thing truly descended. I contacted the control center to report the situation. At that time, it was 9:05 to 9:08, and my ship had lost power. The communication system was only operating on the backup battery power. Yo requests passengers to remain calm and stay seated while awaiting instructions from the control center. Passengers on train 1080 saw smoke and fierce flames erupting from the adjacent train. They desperately wanted to escape this suffocating tunnel and return to the surface to breathe fresh air. But at least they still felt safer being protected inside the sealed train car. What they didn't know was that the fire prevention system had automatically activated the fire doors. This is an intelligent fire prevention solution that helps isolate the fire area, preventing flames and toxic smoke from spreading to other areas. In this subway system, the fireproof doors resemble steel walls rising up to separate different areas from each other. And once the spike trap door is activated, the station's power supply will be cut off to prevent fire and explosion. But the emergency lighting system in the train station was not working instead. In the thick darkness, aside from the faint light from some passengers' phones, they could only grope hopelessly for an escape route. Meanwhile, the toxic smoke continued to seep inside the ship's compartments. The toxic smoke in the tunnel grew increasingly dense, Just a few minutes of inhaling this smoke would cause a victim to lose consciousness immediately. Toxic smoke not only obstructs respiration but also causes burns to the among them, carbon monoxide is the silent killer. It seeps into the bloodstream, displacing oxygen, causing the victim to lose consciousness and become unable to save themselves. In carriage 1080, passengers are still sitting quietly and waiting in the darkness. Every passing moment feels so heavy. Then, a harsh truth struck. The fire had spread to their entire ship. The fire caught onto the insulation layer between the outer aluminum shell and the inner plastic wall, silently consuming everything. Knowing they could wait no longer, everyone began to panic, pushing and shoving each other to get outside. In the pitch darkness, they groped around, trying to open the ship's door, but it was hopeless. The door was locked tight. It was now 10 o'clock, just 7 minutes after the fire erupted on ship 1079, and all 6 ships were engulfed in a sea of flames. The lucky passengers who escaped earlier are safe, while the remaining people are trapped in the tunnel, which is filled with toxic smoke with no way out. After many minutes of desperate effort, the control center still could not restore power to ship 1080. The electrical system was severely damaged by the heat of the cannonball. In the urgent situation, the control center had no choice but to ask Young to guide the passengers to escape the train by running. Young was stunned to see the instructions stating that passengers must open the train doors and run across the left bridge, through the toxic smoke, to escape. Knowing this was an extremely dangerous action, but faced with the reality at that time, there was no other choice. Young failed to convey the instructions to the passengers, and in a moment of panic, Young made a wrong decision. He pulled out the control key, put it in his pocket, and rushed toward the door on the left. This action accidentally cut off the backup power supply, causing the entire ship to lock down. Darkness and despair enveloped train car 1080, with passengers trapped tightly inside, surrounded by a sea of roaring flames and thick, toxic smoke. The ship's hatch was tightly locked, darkness swallowed everything, leaving only a faint glimmer of light from a few mobile phone screens. The sound of shouting, violent coughing, and desperate cries for help echoed in despair. People jostled and pushed, trampling over each other in a state of extreme panic, scrambling for a fragile chance of escape. The air grew thick, suffocating, each gulp of oxygen a final, extravagant luxury. The cruel flames continued to spread, catching on the polyurethane upholstered chairs, then moving to the polyvinyl chloride walls. And in the blink of an eye, the entire ship was engulfed in a sea of fire, with thick black plumes of smoke billowing up, filled with deadly toxic gas. In just a few seconds, the flames engulfed the entire ship, releasing deadly toxic gas. 140 passengers trapped in carriage 1080 were burned alive in a sea of fire, while 2 others also perished right on the platform. But the tragedy did not stop there. The captain of the 1080 train vanished without a trace for 10 hours after the accident. What is even more suspicious is that before the afternoon, the control key for train 1080 was found right in the station office. And everything became even stranger. Then, it was discovered that Dahl had secretly contacted the company and was instructed on how to respond to the investigative agency. Moreover, the transcript of the call between Yahl and the control center was also edited to remove some sensitive segments. The conspiracy to cover up that blatant act has further fueled public outrage. The Daegu subway fire exposed the flawed safety system and the lack of responsibility within the Korean railway industry. Train 1080 should not have been allowed to proceed to the station after receiving a warning about a landslide. Port and starboard lights must be equipped on every ship, and emergency lighting must be fully installed to guide passengers to escape in darkness, especially when the port door is activated. For the charge of irresponsibility causing serious consequences, the 2 crew members in charge of the ships Chuan and Dahl received prison sentences of 4 and 5 years respectively. The perpetrator of the horrific arson attack was Kim Dae-han, a man with a history of mental illness. He brought gasoline onto the subway and ignited it, setting off this entire chain of horrific tragedy. And the incident also revealed that the South Korean healthcare system at that time still had many significant weaknesses. Kim Dae-han was sentenced to life in prison. After the tragedy, the Daegu subway system was comprehensively upgraded to enhance safety and fire prevention measures. The stations were rebuilt to be more spacious and modern. However, some charred structures and equipment covered in black dust have been preserved as a reminder of the heartbreaking disaster, while also commemorating the 192 unfortunate victims. More than 150 other people were also injured from inhaling toxic smoke. The Daegu tragedy is a bloody lesson on the responsibility of ensuring public safety and the painful consequences of irresponsibility, subjectivity, and negligence in the management and operation of infrastructure systems. And now, thank you for following the entire incident of the Daegu subway in South Korea on February 18, 2003, here on Kanha TV. Hope everyone will hit the like button and follow the channel to continue watching videos about the most horrifying incidents in the world. Now, Kanha would like to say goodbye and see you again in the next videos.
If the veil stirred, subscribe and meet the next encounter.